time last year, I got the chance to visit Bungie HQ and interview their community manager, Deej. And I asked him about their decision to not have open world PvP in Destiny. But I wasn't actually asking him about Destiny, funnily enough. I was actually asking him about the Division. I just did it in a very roundabout way. I want you just to listen to this exchange. The decision to not have any kind of PvP in the open world, so to speak, what was the driver behind that decision? Again, would you ever look, because I'm conscious of what you've just said then, but would you ever look to revisit that decision and have some kind of PvP in the open world? And if not, why not?
If somebody was going to do this, they would be a much smarter person than I.
Okay.
The social designers, like I said, the social designers that created the world that the Guardians share made some extremely smart decisions. Because when I first came here, I know what online communities are like. I've played a lot of Bungie games. I've been a willing combatant in a number of different online communities. I know how it can be great. I know how it can go bad. And when they explained to me a Bungie action game, a shooter, where you would always play the game in close proximity to other people, I used to worry about patrolling the Cosmodrome and, have some troll of a sniper up on his favorite bluff just ventilating helmets as they touched down in the landing zone,
Yeah, that sounds pretty familiar.
Just playing whack-a-mole with noobs,
Sure.
That's not the type of game that I would want to play. That's not the type of community I would want to preside over. And I'm glad that what we did was put all of the Guardians together on the same team as a unified force for good. Like I said, there is the Crucible, and tempers flare and heads butt in the Crucible, and there's plenty of arguments about, how many games should people be winning, and how powerful should different weapons be, and all of those things. And that's always going to be a welcome fixture of that experience. But when you're out in the wild and you're patrolling and there's Fallen or there's Hive or Vex or Cabal, on the loose in the wastelands, every time you see another Guardian, you think there's a person who can help me. And that has been a crucial component of the Destiny culture. So, will the social designers or the gameplay designers at Bungie turn us against each other someday? I don't know. I have no idea. But when they do, I'm pretty sure that they'll understand the essence of the Destiny player experience, and they'll be true to that, because they've created something very special, and I can't imagine that they want to undo that in favor of something more hostile.
Sure.
We love our community. We love the way they interact with each other and help each other and go raiding together or form up into Iron Banner teams.
Here, Deej says something really important. When you see another Guardian, that's someone that can help you. This design ethos filters throughout the entire design philosophy of Destiny, and their community is absolutely rock solid, united on what they love about the game, how to play it well, and largely devoid of toxicity. The Destiny community has sprung up sub-communities like the Destiny Sherpas and PvP carries and Dads of Destiny, and a Destiny convention that has literally raised hundreds and thousands of dollars for charity. Theirs is a strong and united community, and I don't think that we have that here. Here we are deeply divided between those that enjoy the PvP experience and those that do not. And it's not just like, I like PvP and you don't, it's like classic us versus them. Because the game has very much conditioned us to think that way. The design ethos of the DZ, however interesting, deliberately pits us against each other in an unpleasant way. And as a result, there are largely two camps that each view each other as the enemy. And I think this is bad, and I think it needs to change. Let me take you through a tour of the front page of Reddit at the moment. I'm going to show you some of the posts that are currently getting like 700 upvotes and like 600 comments, where the average post on Reddit typically gets like 50 upvotes and like 50 comments. Here we have one. This PvP community in this game is by far the most toxic and vicious group of people I have ever seen in a game. I'm a new player and confused. Those who don't like PvP DZ simply choose not to play it, yet those who don't want a PvE DZ don't want it to be available for anyone. Why is that? The Dark Zone is a lost cause. Leaderboards aren't going to do anything. Why must things that work or are fun in PvE must be changed for the sake of PvP? If you come out of the Dark Zone with less than you went in, then you're doing it wrong. From a PvE player, leave the DZ as it is. People that don't want a PvE DZ aren't necessarily pro-ganking. And there are other ones. There was actually one yesterday that had something along the lines of Skill Up must have a bounty on his head at this point. And yes, that's partly true. I think there's certainly lots of response videos popping up. So what are we seeing here? Well, like more than anything else, we're seeing a community that is at war with itself, with both sides painting each other in unfair and inaccurate ways. If you troll through the comments in any one of these Reddit posts, or in my comment section, or on the official forums, or through any of the other response videos that have been put up in response to my own videos, you'll find that a lot of people have divided themselves into two camps. Those who want to participate in PvP but feel like they can't because they feel like the current design and balance just pushes them out, and those who already PvP and are looking to protect what they see as a perfectly functioning, well-realized idea, that the DZ is meant to be harsh and unfair and unwelcoming, and if you don't like that, then it means you don't like PvP in the division. It's just not for you. The problem is how people are engaging each other with these views. PvE players, or those wanting to PvP but who feel like they can't, are too often labeling hardcore PvPers as elitists, as gankers, as selfish, as immature, antisocial jerks who just want things left the way they are, including the absence of a PvE DZ so that they have more fodder and are more able to gank more often. Meanwhile, a large number of the PvPers are labeling the PvE people as social justice warrior, care bear, crybabies. They throw out obnoxious phrases like "get good kid" or "grow some balls, learn to play." Worse, they like to suggest that if you don't PvP in the division because you don't enjoy it, that you shouldn't be talking about it, or in my case, making videos about it. In their minds, you're only allowed to have a view on PvP if you actually enjoy it in its current state, or if you don't enjoy it, that you've kind of forced yourself to play it so that you're allowed to talk about it. I don't know. Either way, all of this totally sucks and it needs to stop. Those looking to protect the current PvP experience aren't all griefers and gankers and assholes. They just like an edgy and unfair form of PvP that they can't get in a lot of other games. Sure, some of them really like the ganking aspect because they like to grief other people, but that's also their right. It's a video game after all. We need to keep things in perspective and not equate someone's in-game behavior with their real-world character or morality. But similarly, the PvP people need to be willing to listen to the fact that there's a large portion of the population that wants to PvP, but feels like they simply can't because they don't meet a lot of the preconditions to be able to do so, or they don't like the more toxic elements of the Dark Zone experience. And the line of "don't voice a view on PvP if you don't PvP" just needs to stop. It is beyond juvenile and it makes everyone look very foolish. It would be like me saying to a PvP focused player back during 1.4 when they were redesigning the PvE side of the game, it'd be like me saying, "keep your mouth shut, you dirty PvPer, what do you know about PvE?" Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just idiotic. That needs to stop. We need to be working together here and we need to listen to each other, but I will admit that that is hard when the core game experience is structured to specifically turn us against each other and specifically create situations where you as a rogue can impose a certain gameplay style on me as someone looking to farm the DZ or looking for more honest and fair 1v1s instead of the 4v1 ganks. This tension will always exist so long as the DZ is the only PvP game mode in the game. So long as it stands as the singular means of PvPing, we are always going to have these two camps. Those that like it and those that feel that they can't do it even if they want to. The answer here is a dedicated PvP game mode that sets up fair rules of engagement. At that point, everyone gets the chance to PvP and everyone can agree on what good looks like when it comes to quality play. And the conversation moves on from being a discussion about the social aspects and imbalances of the Dark Zone and more a conversation about the best strategies required to be effective in a fair and equal PvP environment. Now, as I've said in a previous video, I do suspect that this sort of content is coming. The leaked data files I covered hinted at a game mode with capture points like Control in Destiny or Conquest in Battlefield. So I think that this is happening, but I don't know that it is. It wouldn't be the first time a data mine file was incorrect. So the point I want to make here directly to Massive is that this sort of environment is absolutely critical if we are going to get over this inherent tension as a community. If and when it does happen, those looking for fair PvP will choose arenas, and those looking for the unfair harshness of the DZ will stay there and be able to enjoy that environment without constantly being accused of being a jerk. But beyond arenas, I really do think there's some things that we can do in the Dark Zone Zone to make it more fair and welcoming to a larger portion of the player base without completely throwing out the core identity of the Dark Zone. I don't think the Dark Zone should be fair, but I do think it should be at least a little bit more fair than it currently is. If PvP is that little bit more fair, then we're going to get a lot less butthurt when we die. We're going to feel like, yep, cool, fair enough, I died, just like in every other PvP game that we enjoy playing. Now, I've already provided some ideas on how this fairness can be achieved, so I'm not going to go through them again here. And look, maybe some of them go too far and they undermine the existing experience too much. Sure. Absolutely. But also, maybe not. Yes, it's less hardcore in the DZ. Yes, it's less man mode, but let's be real. Ubisoft is a business and they aren't going to funnel money into a game that people aren't playing. This game will die unless it attracts more players, and unquestionably making the Dark Zone a little bit more fair is probably going to welcome in more people than it will push people away. And I think that's just good for the game in the long term. But there's actually another layer to this that I think is worth talking about, and it's the actual toxic element of the community. There is a small but very potent minority who do a lot of things that make this game unpleasant for others. I am talking about checkpoint campers, trash talkers, about corpse clappers, all that sort of stuff. These are the people that legitimately do make the DZ a pretty shitty place to be. And the thing is, they're only able to do this because the game systems allow them to. And the question I want to raise here is, should this be the case? As I see it, there are three priority areas. There's checkpoint camping, there's exiting the Dark Zone while in combat, and then there's the all-important voice, text chat, and emotes issue. So let's talk about checkpoint camping first. Yes, I know that I can spawn at another safe house or checkpoint if I want to, but sometimes I'm just zoning in, minding my own business, and I find 4 people waiting outside for me, ready to jump me, and that is just lame. And of course, unlike pretty much every other game ever, I'm fully vulnerable for that 1 to 2 seconds while I wait for my game screen to load after my character actually zones into the Dark Zone, which is more than enough time for my enemy to mow me down. So, what's needed? Well, I'm not going to surprise anyone when I say DZ checkpoint turrets. I mean, it's pretty obvious, everyone's been asking it forever, so I'm really just joining that chorus. In short, the area around checkpoints should be safe spaces for people to load in without getting ganked. But I would take that a step further. The risk of snipers sitting off into the distance ready to one-shot someone who has just walked in is a real threat. And people also suffer similar problems at the safe houses as well when they zone out of those, but actually wouldn't advocate putting turrets up there because a lot of fighting happens in those front areas in front of a safe house, and I think that's actually fine because that's sort of in the middle of the map. You don't want to mess with that middle space. So to deal with both of these issues, I'd just propose a simple 5-second invulnerability window when you step out of a DZ checkpoint or a safe house. You don't take any damage for 5 seconds or until you fire your weapon or use your skill. We don't want to be in a position where someone can damage someone else, but they can't get damage back because they have this invulnerability buff. So that's why you should lose all that invulnerability the moment you engage in any combat activities. Next up, exiting the DZ while in combat. Now this one just really pisses me off. If I'm minding my own business in the Dark Zone and a group of 4 rogues see me, they can literally shoot me from like 100 meters away and keep chasing me and keep me in combat so that when I do reach a DZ checkpoint, I'm unable to use that, or a safe house. I literally am just standing there banging at the door, still in combat, unable to escape. Running away is literally my only defense against a group of 4 players, yet I simply can't do it because the DZ won't let me leave. So again, let's help out solo players and non-rogues. Let's let people leave the Dark Zone if they aren't rogue. Sure, this is going to make it harder for rogues to secure a kill, but frankly, I don't care. If the only means I have to stop myself from getting stomped by rogues is to run away, then I should be able to damn well run away. Now, the final topic is voice chat, text, and emotes. And honestly, I don't quite know what to do here. For sure, there's a very toxic element that is created by giving people the right to say whatever they please in an online game. Trash talk is always going to happen in that space. And there is, of course, the option to disable it if you don't like it. So it really does come down to player choice. To cut off voice chat altogether would be to stamp out trash talking, sure, but it would also remove the chance to have a really good conversation with a stranger that you met in the Dark Zone, and that person could go on to become your like best gaming buddy for the next 50 years of your life, right? It's truly a double-edged sword, but in my view, the solution here is just to simply leave it off by default so that players can choose to opt in if they want to. I personally leave my VoIP off most of the time because I find the DZ chat is pretty rubbish, and if you're someone that also does not enjoy that, I would recommend doing the same. And the last issue is emotes. Yeah, I don't know that we necessarily need emotes in the Dark Zone. 9 out of 10 people who are using those emotes are just using them to troll others, so maybe emotes are something that we can live without. But again, I don't know, it's a video game. We can't take this too seriously. But the fact that a lot of people feel like the DZ is not only unfair, but actually a very toxic environment, if we can take small steps to reduce that toxicity without going full like nanny state social justice warrior, then I think that's probably a good thing. So guys, that's it. This video is a little bit different to the others because the key thing I wanted to get across in the opening section was that like, we just need to stop accusing each other of being the enemy. But I know that will really only happen if we get some dedicated PvP arenas, and if we take some steps to smooth out the rough edges in PvP, including things like checkpoint camping, or exiting the Dark Zone while in combat, or chat or emote abuse. A lot of you are probably thinking this stuff doesn't matter, but it absolutely does. People don't keep playing online games if the communities are shitty, and I think there are some things that can be done within the game design, that would make for a better community overall. In the meantime, everyone take a deep breath and remember that the person who enjoys PvP isn't your enemy, they just like something different. And the person who doesn't like PvP isn't a Care Bear or unable to comment on what good PvP is, they're just looking to offer suggestions on how they can also participate in an activity that's going to grow the game and the community as a whole. Guys, if you liked this video and you found it useful, do drop it a like. I've got one more video coming in this series, which will come later in the week. I'm going to do a fair amount of work on that one. So yeah, stick around for that one. Don't forget to hit the little notification bell so you'll know exactly when that video is available. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Take good care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.